Allahabad High Court, in its order dated 8th May 2024, raised a pertinent question as to why the list of gifts that are exchanged between couples during a marriage were not being maintained as prescribed under Section 3(2) of the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. According to the High Court, this should be mandatory to prevent any false allegations of dowry at later stages if a marriage fails. So what was this case all about? The Allahabad High Court was hearing a matter, Ankit Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh, where the court observed how sizable number of litigations arising out of the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961 were coming up, whereas these cases largely pertain to matrimonial disputes. Justice Vikram D. Chauhan of the Allahabad High Court went on to state that the parties to the marriage are filing cases with allegations of dowry. However, no such list in terms of Section 3(2) of the Dowry Prohibition Act and rules of 1985 are being filed either by the husband or the wife or their family members. Thus, the court was of the opinion that Section 3(2) of the Dowry Prohibition Act is required to be implemented in its letter and spirit so that the citizens are not subject to a matter of frivolous litigations. Now, let us understand what is Section 3(2) of the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. As per this section, which is mentioned in the Act, presents or gifts which are given at the time of marriage either to the bride or the bridegroom and which are entered in this list maintained in accordance with the rules made under this Act, they shall not be construed as dowry under Section 3 of the Dowry Prohibition Act. Now, let us understand what are these rules in accordance with lists of presents that are to be maintained. The list of presents which are given at the time of marriage to the bride shall be maintained by the bride. The list of presents which are given at the time of marriage to the bridegroom shall be maintained by the bridegroom. Every list of presents referred to in the Subrule 1 and Subrule 2 shall be prepared at the time of marriage or as soon as the marriage is concluded. These rules shall be written and they will contain a brief description of each present, the approximate value of this present, the name of the person who has given this present, and where the person is giving this present, how that person is related to the bride or the bridegroom, a description of such a relationship. These rules will be then signed by both the bride and the bridegroom. Justice Chauhan in this case added that the maintenance of list is also important so that both the parties to the marriage and their family members may not be subject to false allegations of taking dowry or giving dowry in a marriage subsequently. He added further that the arrangement made by the Dowry Prohibition Act may also assist in subsequent litigations between the parties to arrive at a conclusion whether the allegations with regard to the taking or giving of dowry are covered by the exception carved out under this 3(2) section of the Dowry Prohibition Act 1961. Section 3 of the Act also provides penalty for giving and taking dowry as imprisonment for not less than 5 years or a fine not less than Rs 50,000 or an amount equal to the value of the dowry, whichever being higher. Now, very importantly, subsection 2 of the Section 3 refers to the presents which are given to the bride or the bridegroom at the time of marriage and have not been demanded, are not dowry, provided that a list of such gifts received by either person is maintained in accordance with these rules. The High Court very rightly went on to add that the dowry prohibition, that is the maintenance of lists of presents to the bride and bridegroom rules as per 1985, have been framed by the central government, keeping in mind our Indian marriage system, where gifts and presents act as a token of celebration and honoring an important event. The legislature was aware of the Indian tradition, and as such, the above-mentioned exception had been carved out. Emphasizing on the Section 8 of the Dowry Prohibition Act, the Allahabad High Court was also of the opinion that dowry prohibition officers are required to be appointed for the purpose to see whether these provisions of the Act are complied with or not. A Chief Secretary, that is the State Chief Secretary of UP or any other officer authorized by him, shall file an affidavit as to whether in terms of Section 8B of the Act, the dowry prohibition officers have or have not been appointed by the state government. Concluding this order, the Allahabad High Court said that the state government shall also file an affidavit with effect to whether at the time of marriage registration, these rules where the list of presents and gifts were mentioned are being maintained by the dowry prohibition officers, and subsequently in the event if there is a dispute between the parties to the marriage with regard to these presents being termed now as dowry, the same can be verified. This particular matter is now listed for 23rd of May this year. So what is our take in this? Indian culture thrives on rich traditions, Indian weddings are a sum total of our culture, where numerous ceremonies having their own significance are conducted during a marriage ceremony. Unlike the West, both sides to a marriage in India believe in exchanging gifts, presents, as a mark of love, affection, and respect to welcome their new daughter-in-law or son-in-law within their respective families. In happier times, the exchange of such gifts between parties are always mutual, without any force or coercion. In fact, as observed frequently, it is the bride's side that goes beyond their capacity in splurging over festivities and gifts, most of the times to project or boast about their own financial status in society. Now, when a marriage goes bad between the couple at a later stage, the same doting in-laws of a man strike back with an endless list of items given to him and his family during marriage. They now call these gifts as dowry. When the relationship goes bitter and sour, the brides and their families have even included undergarments given to their daughter as dowry. In India, mere allegations of dowry are enough to drag her husband and his entire family to court. Of course, one may argue that truth will prevail during the trial, but by the time justice is meted out to the husband's family, they have already lost out on precious years of life, sacrificing their reputation and respect, running around police station and court for years. Let us be very clear. At no point in time, Voice for Men India justifies or supports any form of forced gifts, which is the real definition of dowry. Anyone who threatens, abuses, or is violent with his wife or daughter-in-law must face serious consequences of the law. Sadly, the real victims of dowry harassment end up waiting in queue for justice because the women with money, power, influence who want to fix their husbands and in-laws are given priority. Such frivolous cases are also encouraged to be filed without any fear due to the lack of intent from the courts to take any action against such false accusers. This Allahabad High Court order surely comes as a reality check, once again reiterating the gross misuse and abuse of a law that was meant to protect vulnerable women. I'm leaving the entire High Court order in the description link of this video, or you can read it on our website voiceformenindia.com. You can also follow us on our social media handles given below, that is X, Instagram, Telegram, Facebook, @voiceformenin. Do like these videos because as per the algorithm, it will help us spread these videos to more and more people for creating awareness. And you can also hit the like button, subscribe to Voice for Men India so that you can be updated as and how we broadcast a new video. That's it from me as of now. Thank you very much for watching. Namaste. Jai Hind.